This is a Citizen Eco Drive dive watch. Rubber band, 45mm lens, rotating bezel. This is a Pulsar Quartz chronograph. Rubber band, 50mm crystal, sports watch. This is a Citizen Quartz Movement, two-tone band, 50mm lens. This is a Citizen Eco Drive. It runs off solar power, has a titanium band, 50mm lens. So what does all this mean? Today, you will learn how to speak watch. I got to tell you what the parts of a watch are. All right, everybody knows these three things here. That's your minute, hour, and second hand. This is your date, day of the week, and that's your day of the month. Now, this glass piece, sometimes referred to as a crystal, is called a crystal. That's exactly right. It's a rock sapphire crystal. Most of your high-end watches, these are made out of rock sapphire. A lot of your Casios, your Timexes, and things like that, these are made out of plastic. This rim of metal around the edge, right there, is called a bezel. And of course, this is your band. They can be made out of rubber, leather, or sometimes plastic. Now, over here, this is what you use to set this watch. See if I can show you. There it is. Now, that's actually called a crown. That's the part you actually turn when you're setting the hands. The part that goes from this part over to the works, which are behind these hands, that's called the stem. So, there you go. Now, that's the parts of a watch. I'm going to refer to those throughout this whole video. Just as a way to contrast, we're back on the parts of a watch again. And this is a two-tone watch. See how it's got a yellow metal and a stainless steel band, and then the yellow crown is around here. Again, it's got your three hands, your minute, hour, and second hand. But this one only has the day of the month. It doesn't have the day of the week. And then there's your crown over here. And again, that goes to a stem that goes to the middle of the watch, or the works, which sets that date, and the hands. This one is an Eco Drive. It's also made by Citizen. We'll go over more of this in just a minute when we talk about the movement of a watch. But an Eco Drive works off solar power. That little blue dial that the hands are in front of is actually a blue solar panel. And it heats up, or it uses energy, light energy, to charge a power cell, which is in the back. And that's what runs your watch. Okay, so we just finished going over the parts of a watch. You've got your hands, you've got your crown, your bezel, your band, that type of thing. There's two major classifications of a watch. You got a wristwatch, then you got a pocket watch. The pocket watch, you'll remember, is probably what your grandfather had while you were growing up. You wind it at the top and you hit the button and it'll open up, tell you the time. Back then, a lot of your watches had jewels in them. With the little wheels inside the watch actually had a spindle that sat on top of a jewel. You may have heard the term 17 jewel or 13 jewel or something like that. Today we're focusing on mainly wristwatches. Now, your wristwatches come in different brands and different styles and that type of thing. And I'm not talking about your digital watches like your Samsung or your iWatch, those types of things. But what I am talking about is your mechanical movement watches. And in just a second, we're going to start talking about the movement in it. And when I say movement, that's the motor, or what actually drives that watch. So now let's talk about the movement, the engine, the motor that drives those hands. So you've got four basic types. You've got a quartz movement, you've got a mechanical movement, you've got an automatic movement, and you have a solar power. Now, basically the movements are the same. The way they derive energy is different. What I mean by that, the quartz movement runs off of a battery. So you have an external battery that you can replace that goes in that watch that drives those hands. A mechanical movement works off the movement of your arm. So in other words, when you walk around and your arm's moving, there's a little weight in that watch that'll turn and it'll charge a battery or a power cell and get that thing going. There's an automatic movement, which works much the same way. It works off the movement of your arm or kinetic energy, that type of thing. And then you have a solar power. And I showed you a watch like that a few minutes ago where the actual dial that plate of metal behind those hands is actually a solar panel, and it gets energy from a light source, be it UV light, be it sunlight, whatever, and it charges up a battery in the back, and that's what drives those hands. Now, what gives those things away? A quartz movement. You can see the hands tick every second like that. Now, your kinetics, your automatic watches, those will tick 5 to 10 times inside each second. So it looks more like a sweeping hand. If you've ever seen a Rolex, that is a great example of a mechanical movement. Because for years, people thought that a way to tell a real Rolex from a fake Rolex was that hand sweep. Well, now they've gotten really good at making fake Rolexes with the sweep hand, so you can't go by that much anymore. But remember, the sweeping hand is indicative that there is an automatic or a mechanical movement. Now, let's drill down a little bit deeper. Let's talk about those quartz movements for just a minute. Up until 1969, all we had was watches that you wind by hand. Remember we were talking about the pocket watch. Now, in 1969, a Japanese company, can't remember the name of it, invented a quartz movement. That is where you take the battery in and out as it dies or the battery gets weaker. So, what are the benefits of a quartz movement watch? These watches are a lot of your Timexes, or most of them, a lot of your Casio watches, your Ironmans, and that type of thing. They are extremely accurate. I think a quartz movement watch will not gain or lose more than a second over an entire year. So they're easy to use, they're very accurate, very low maintenance. You don't have to do anything but about every 3 to 5 years, you have to replace that external battery. They're less expensive. I think a Timex, the last time I looked online, they were selling for anywhere from $25 up to $150. The most expensive one I've ever seen is the Timex G-Shock, I think is the name of it. It might be a Casio G-Shock, and those can run upwards of around $200. And they're durable. Timex used to have an ad. It takes a lick and keeps on ticking. And they actually hit their watch with a hockey stick, and the goalie caught it, and the watch continued to run. So they're very accurate, very versatile, easy to use, low maintenance, less money, less initial investment, and they're very durable. So that's the benefits of a quartz movement. Next on our list, let's talk about mechanical movement watches. Mechanical movement watches. Now, the way these works is these watches have a mainspring inside them, which all watches do, but this one's a little bigger than normal. And as you move your arm through using your arm throughout the day or walking, any kind of kinetic movement of your arm, you actually wind that spring throughout the day. So it is basically a kinetic movement watch, but it's called a mechanical energy watch. So what are the benefits of this watch? Well, to start with, it lasts longer than your other quartz-based watches because you don't open it to replace the watch or the battery in and out. You keep it shut. The longer you keep a watch shut, the less contaminants get in it, the less water get in it. That kills watches, water and contamination. So the longevity is there. You don't have to open it. You don't have to replace a battery. And aesthetics. With mechanical watches, these are the watches that horologists, yes, that is a true thing. These are guys who actually build watches. These are the watches that they actually start taking pride in. A lot of these watches, mechanical watches, come out of Switzerland or come out of Germany, and they look like a piece of art. They are beautiful watches. They're elegant. They are made to be handed down generation to generation. So we're moving up the food chain. Mechanical watches are a little better off, a little better pleasing to the eye than your quartz movement watches. Moving on up, or moving over, whichever the case may be, you have an automatic mechanical watch. Okay, now what does that mean? We talked about the quartz movement works off a battery. We talked about the mechanical movement, which doesn't take a battery, and it works off of a winding spring. This watch is similar to the mechanical movement in that it has a weight in the back of it. A lot of times they'll actually put glass in the back so you can see this weight changing around. If you put it around your ear and shake it, you can hear this weight transferring kinetic energy into weight energy. And it slides around on what's called a rotator winding spring. And it actually adds fuel, or it charges up the watch. In other words, it winds that spring up and releases that energy slowly over time, but it runs your watch. So, what are the benefits of an automatic watch? Well, one thing is they're beautiful. Your Rolexes are your automatic mechanical movement watch. Automatic watch is a Rolex. So it doesn't take a battery, so therefore the longevity is there. You don't have to open the back religiously and take batteries in and out. And also, the downside is you need to wear it. A mechanical movement watch or a kinetic movement watch or an automatic watch has to be worn to be accurate. They do have a power cell, or they do have a mainspring that will hold energy for up to 72 hours. But after that, you got to wear it and you have to reset it. So you need to wear a kinetic watch, an automatic watch or mechanical watch. You need to wear those at least every other day. If you leave them on your drawer, on your nightstand, they're going to run out of energy and they're going to stop. So then you have to wind them up. And what that takes is you actually turning the watch in your hand like that about 100 times. And that'll wind that mainspring up enough for about a day. So there you go. The benefits and the drawbacks of an automatic watch. Now, moving on up, or moving over, whichever the case may be, you have an automatic mechanical watch. Okay, now what does that mean? We talked about the quartz movement works off a battery. We talked about the mechanical movement, which doesn't take a battery, and it works off of a winding spring. This watch is similar to the mechanical movement in that it has a weight in the back of it. A lot of times they'll actually put glass in the back so you can see this weight changing around. If you put it around your ear and shake it, you can hear this weight transferring kinetic energy into weight energy. And it slides around on what's called a rotator winding spring. And it actually adds fuel, or it charges up the watch. In other words, it winds that spring up and releases that energy slowly over time, but it runs your watch. So, what are the benefits of an automatic watch? Well, one thing is they're beautiful. Your Rolexes are your automatic mechanical movement watch. Automatic watch is a Rolex. So it doesn't take a battery, so therefore the longevity is there. You don't have to open the back religiously and take batteries in and out. And also, the downside is you need to wear it. A mechanical movement watch or a kinetic movement watch or an automatic watch has to be worn to be accurate. They do have a power cell, or they do have a mainspring that will hold energy for up to 72 hours. But after that, you got to wear it and you have to reset it. So you need to wear a kinetic watch, an automatic watch or mechanical watch. You need to wear those at least every other day. If you leave them on your drawer, on your nightstand, they're going to run out of energy and they're going to stop. So then you have to wind them up. And what that takes is you actually turning the watch in your hand like that about 100 times. And that'll wind that mainspring up enough for about a day. So there you go. The benefits and the drawbacks of an automatic watch. Now, the last movement we're going to talk about is what's called a solar-powered watch. Citizen calls theirs an eco drive. Pulsar calls theirs solar-powered. And I showed it to you before. Basically, there's a disc behind the hands of a watch that is a solar panel. And it takes that energy from light, whether it be UV radiation or sunlight. It takes that energy and actually uses it and puts it into a power cell. So it runs off of a battery, but think of it like a rechargeable battery. So you do have to change that battery, but it's only about every 10 years. It is a very accurate watch, and Citizen has done a great job of making it sleek as well as the function is there. They've done a good job perfecting this Eco Drive watch. Now, some of the drawbacks of an Eco Drive or a solar-powered watch is it has to be worn. You can't throw it in a drawer or leave it in a box and expect it to work. It works off solar power. So what we always recommend here at the store when we sell a solar powered watch is when he or she takes it off, leave it under a nightlight or leave it in a windowsill, and the sunlight will continually keep that battery at full charge. Now, you have to replace the power cell, and usually that requires it going back to Citizen or Pulsar. You can do it in a jewelry store. They just have to make sure they put the right cell back in it. And that little battery cell sells for about $50, and it'll keep you going for another 10 years. Very accurate watch, very streamlined, very ergonomic. Citizen did well. Did well. It's a great option for you who don't want to ever touch a watch again. Put it on, set it, and forget it, and it's done. Citizen Eco Drive. Hopefully it'll sponsor me one day. This is a Citizen dive watch, and what gives it away, of course, it says diver's watch right here, and it's waterproof up to 200 meters. It's also an Eco Drive. We talked about that earlier. It runs off solar power. Now what gives it away is this rotating bezel right here. A true dive watch, the bezel will only rotate one way, like that. Now, what makes this watch waterproof? The biggest thing is in the back, it has a gasket around the whole back of the watch, and the watch back screws on. Over here, where this stem and crown is, right there, there is actually a gasket around that, so when it seals tight and it's waterproof. And also on the band right here, you can see the demarcation lines of your depth and your time at the bottom, and that gives it away as a dive watch. Back of the watch, and as you can see, it has these little teeth or indentations right there, and that is for a watch wrench. Watch wrench has mating teeth that fall into those little gaps, and you can spin the back of this watch off. Remember, I said it has a gasket right under here, a little rubber gasket that seals this back to that casing, and then it has a seal behind that little stem and crown right there. Your dress watches a lot of times will have a snap back, and I'll show you one of those in just a second. This one, as you can see, does not have those indentations, so it does not take a watch wrench to pop the back off. You can actually pop this back off with a pocket knife or with a watch battery changing knife. Now, I need to stress this, and I can't stress it enough. This watch is not waterproof. This watch is what they call water resistant. Because the back does not screw down, it does not make a constant seal around that little gasket. So this watch is water resistant. You can get your hands wet by rain or washing your hands and things of that nature, but you cannot submerge this watch for a long period of time. Now, this watch right here, remember, is a dive watch, and it has those seals on the back and the stem and crown. It has been pressure tested to 200 meters. This watch is a true waterproof watch. Again, waterproof, water resistant. There's a big difference. One you cannot submerge, the other one you can. And as far as a dive watch is concerned, even if you do have one of these, you need to change those seals here and there, maybe every 2 years, because they will dry out and they'll just start breaking on you, and it'll allow water to get into the back of your watch. All right, as a review, we talked about bands, we talked about crystals, we talked about crystal size, we talked about movements, talked about a lot of stuff, waterproof versus water resistant. I hope you like this video, guys. If you do, subscribe down below, and I'll send more out just like this. And also, too, I will link in the description the Citizen website and also maybe Seiko or Pulsar website, so you can look for yourself and see the exact watches I was talking about. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.